Welcome back to Mainville ATV. Today we've got a Grizzly 700 and we're going to be putting a Rad Relocate on it. It's pretty much the exact same thing that we did to ours way back in the day. Drake here was saying he never overheated ever. What's going on?
I was that guy.
What'd you do?
I got real hot.
Oh, you overheated?
I was just going along, like the light didn't come on and going along, all of a sudden coolant starts coming out the breather. I'm just getting sprayed with it. Never had a problem. Go riding with you guys, now I need to relocate.
It's the way she goes. And when we went for our Nesbitt trip, that's when I broke my rear diff.
After he said he's gonna break the rear diff.
After I said I was gonna break the rear diff, I also said he was gonna overheat because Rad Relocates just keep the mud out of it. So guess what happened? He got sprayed with hot coolant all over the place, like really hot coolant. And we got to fix that. So he went and ordered the same kit from Wild Boar for the Rad Relocate, and we're gonna get that done here today. We're just pulling off the front rack, all of the front plastics, all of the front everything, so we can get to the Rad and find out how bad it's caked.
Well, we aren't even to the Rad, and there's a sandbox.
There's always going to be little surprises when you are riding this thing. It's 4.5 years old, something like that, right? So
hard.
There's going to be a good amount of history in it.
Keep pretending you're working. I'm just kidding. I'm recording now.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what'd you do so far?
So far we've got all of the accoutrement off. We've got bumpers, racks, and plastic. This is like 5 seconds of work, especially when you have 2 sets of hands going at it. We just got to get rid of all the things that are in the way to get the Rad out, and then we can start mocking up the Rad Relocate kit and stuff like that. This is a really good thing to consider. If you're overheating all the time because you're riding through mud or a lot of dust, it can be really hard to clean the Rad. So just by keeping it up on top, you can do yourself a favor in the long run. Because even the people who believe, they're like, it'll never happen to me, well, I'm standing right there, and here we are. So.
A little up more.
We've got leakage.
It all came forward in the front skid shield. It's hanging in the position.
Oh. Yep.
Well, I thought that was going to be good.
No diesel.
I was expecting more of like a nothing bloosh.
Yep.
Every time. Doesn't matter what you do it for. I swear.
It's like, make sure you don't get this anywhere. 2 minutes later, it's everywhere.
Helpful tip, do not let your dog, or animals for that fact, or yourself even, I don't know if I have to
Or
tell you.
children.
Don't lick the coolant. I can tell you from experience, it's sweet, but it will kill your dog.
Yes. It does look delicious. Of all the fluids I would choose, it would definitely be coolant.
Yeah, I think the worst is probably cooked tranny fluid. Probably the worst. Maybe gear oil. What do you think?
See, I like the smell of gear oil. I'm that weird guy.
Oh my god, no. No, that's the last one on my list.
Have you ever smelled Ford friction log fire?
I don't want to smell anything Ford.
You missed some in the back, babe.
Thank you.
Slower.
Where's the other two towel?
I appreciate your guidance. I can see the lime green fluid on the gray floor.
Are you sure?
We're going through a lot of shop towel. We should order some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
It has to be Trojan.
Trojan man.
Use one of those in years.
What?
What do you mean?
You guys can't make me laugh because when I'm laughing, the camera's like, you're like, screw that cash check.
She does steal your snacks.
She will do that.
Mostly off camera. No one needs to know. I ate a lot of Drake snacks on our ride last time. Like a lot.
But I did bring a lot of snacks.
Coffee break.
Okay.
So at this point, I know it's a little fast and furious, but that's literally how easy the job is, specifically on these machines. Snorkels is a little bit different. For those of you doing rad relocates and snorkels at the same time, you're going to be in this for a day or two to do it properly. For just the rad relocate, you're probably looking at like 2.5 hours, depending on how many apple juice boxes you have. At this point, we have the bumpers and plastics and all the supports off, and we made a complete mess draining the coolant, like you likely will, because that's how coolant goes every single time. I know there's a proper drain port somewhere in here. I just never went looking for it, so I just pulled off the bottom lowest hose and let it rip. So from here, we have everything cracked, and we're just going to pull the rad out and make a little bit more of a mess. And at that point, you start taking a look at your kit itself and rebuilding with everything back together, and with the rad where it's going to be from now on. So pretty simple that way. So we're going to make that mess, and we're going to have to clean this thing up.
Oh,
So
saucy.
I am barely getting any light through that, keeping in mind there's a bit of a fan in the housing behind it. So that's your rad, don't be afraid to pull it out. And my camera lady, oh boy. So we're gonna have to give this a good soak while we're at it.
I'm gonna straighten some of those fins, I think, too.
But I would say a good 40% of this rad's clogged.
She's gonna be a whole new beast this
What
weekend.
happened to that? How can we distort that?
I didn't do that, that was your hose.
I shot the tip just a little too hard.
Just a little too hard. So we're probably gonna bring this outside and soak it.
It's like here. Just flip it over upside down on the table. And you'll see where it is. Yeah, it's right there.
Let me see.
Here, you hold that one.
Okay. So we need your fan back in.
Look, we got squares. I'm more excited now. And they're all different heights.
Where's your fan? Nope.
Right here, babe. I'm your biggest fan.
I could get rid of the extension. Am I going to? No. I'm impressed with how round that is again.
Only the best in this shop.
You know they always teach you in school, screwdrivers aren't pry bars? That's a load of rock.
Anything can be whatever you want with a little bit of imagination. We have to mount the rad to the actual rad relocate, and then we're going to mount that to the rack, and that allows us to know where everything's going to be in the end state. We already had a look at it at the beginning of this, but once we have all that mounted, we can basically reassemble the machine, and the only thing we have to do is extend the fan wire to go to your fan. You have to run a vent tube to your actual fan housing, and the two rad hoses, upper and lower, for the rad itself, and then just make sure everything jives, and at that point you're pretty well on the home stretch, just a couple little details and you're done.
There you go. And
I smell
again,
bad.
Drake is out of the shot.
Are they 10?
You guys are doing a really good job at blocking what you're working on.
So the majority of rad relocates you're going to see, they all look different from different companies, but they just basically do the same thing. All it is a bracket that's going to hold your rad somewhere else. So this kit from Wild Boar, they just have spacers, and it's lined up with the original mounts for the rad. So they come with a couple washers and things like that to protect your rubber gaskets. They kind of handle a little bit of shock load. So if you actually pay attention to Cass when she's riding, you can see the Rad Relocate has a bit of flex on purpose. And that's so this isn't too rigid so you don't crack things. So you gotta be careful mounting this down. Don't crank it, don't give it all the duggas, just a couple ugas, and you'll be good to go. So everything is on here. Now we're gonna take this whole thing and mount it to his front rack.
Go ahead.
For those of you cutting hose like this, I've mentioned it in the past, these are the greatest tool in the world to get a nice clean cut. It's literally for this exact job. I use them all the time for anything that isn't reinforced hose. So you literally just find a center point. We have tons of extra hose here, and that's it. Good to go. And the cut is perfect.
If you swirl that around your head, does it make a cool sound?
Yes.
I think it would have made a cooler sound if you left it really long.
Wait, hold on. I think I can do better sound. So the kits you get have these little adapters. They're pretty hard to get into the hose. I just took both hoses and I cut them exactly in half. This is more than enough hose, but I'd rather have more than less when it comes time to fine-tuning things. When you're putting these adapters in, I just put a light film of generic grease on it. Not on the inside, obviously, but on the outside, and that way I can force the tube on all the way down and then get these bands on as tight as possible. If you don't get these right and you are having a rad leak, likely this is the case. So try to do these as cleanly and as best as you can, because it will matter down the road.
Is that long enough for you, or?
I have more extensions.
Yeah, we can extend that a couple more inches.
Why do I have so many of these?
I don't know, babe.
Want some help? Let me just help you with that.
What's up with the end one? That one's even broken. Get that.
Oh. So there's two little holes right there. The two on the other side are for mounting it to your rack, but there's two to guide your vent tubes in. A lot of people miss that because we don't read instructions, and I get that.
My tube's too big.
So at this point, you've seen us mount the rad to the Rad Relocate and the Relocate to the rack, but at this point, we have to actually finish up putting everything back on the front end with the rad out of it. We have all the extra hose hanging out of it. We're going to reinstall this and then guide the hose to the Rad Relocate.
I was thinking that.
Careful, guys. Yeah, jacked up right now.
That's me shaking it. And then I was like, oh, it's on jack, isn't it?
We're putting a bunch of coolant in it. There's a lot of ways to do this. But basically, the first way I always attempt it is we fill the machine up and then we run it without the rad cap on. And 8 to 9 times out of 10, it'll just bubble out of the rad and you're good to go. But there is a couple ways to actually relieve air bubbles in the cooling system in a couple spots down below. But this usually works. Ooh, that rad cap sounds a little crusty. Might want to give that a little wipe down. But we're almost there. The rad kit's on. It looks real sharp. I'll make sure to get a bunch of beauty shots of that. So here we have it. Rad Relocate's done. We burped it to the best of our ability. We have to get a little bit of a jaunt test ride out of it to make sure, because we wanted to get the fan to kick on. These machines at idle with a really clean rad and the system working out don't kick on automatically. So there's a lot going on that way, but as you can see, super easy job. Other than a little bit of a mess, we'll make sure we mop that up. I just wanted to say that these Rad Relocates really help out. So even some of you guys that are like on really dusty trails, and your rad's clogging up all the time, and you've always got those like water pumps and stuff with you, this can really help you out. You don't have to be a big mud guy or girl to have this. It's inexpensive. If you're in the States, there's 1,000,001 companies that'll do this for you. It's just a couple $100 even for Canadians. But here it is, one and done. I think these Yamahas are some of the easier machines to do, other than of course the ones that come from OEM with them. But it was a breeze, and I'm sure he's going to be glad to have it, because this weekend we're going to be going for a ride up north, and we're going to put it to the test. So we're going to find out if we're good at what we do, or I'm going to embarrass myself. But not our first one. I think this is like the 6th or 7th I've ever done. So very clean. We'll get some beauty shots and we'll send him on his way.